What's up everyone, my name is Melissa Makak and this is Teach the Teach, where I teach you how to teach a board game. And in this video, I'll be covering the Quacks of Quedlinburg. So this is a how to teach video. I'm assuming that you already know how to play this game and now you're looking to teach it to other players. There are plenty of ways to teach games. This is just a way that has worked for me, and maybe it could help you out if you've had difficulties teaching games or this game in particular. I'm going to assume that you're teaching this to people who are new to gaming, because a lot of times you could use Quacks as a gateway game. Otherwise, if you're teaching it to gamers, that's fine. You could skip over maybe a couple of the things that I speak about in this video. But if you are teaching it to new players, bag building and press your luck might be a little bit new to players, especially the bag building aspect. So you might want to spend a little more time talking about that. And first, I tell them about the story of the game, what's going on in this game, the objective, how to win this game, getting the most points, and then ultimately how this game ends, right? It goes up to round 9 and then the game is over. And this gives them a foundation of how the game plays and why you're doing the things you do in this game. So I go right into it. I show them their pot and how we'll be putting in different ingredients into this pot. And I show them, okay, so from your bag, you're going to be taking a chip out of it. And from your teardrop, because they should already have a teardrop on their board, right, on the 0 mark, I say the first chip is going to go however many spaces the chip tells you, right? So for example, this one shows the number 2. So I'll show them on the board, on my own board. So I have my teardrop on the board, and then I'm going to count 2 spaces away, right? So 1, 2, and then it would be right over there. Cool. And then I pick out another bag, and I let them know we're all doing this together at the same time. So we're all just picking out chips from our bag. We don't have to wait for each other. So anyway, I put this down onto my board, and then I take out another chip, and this one is a number 1. So it's going to go 1 away from the last chip I just placed. So if this was 2 spaces away, I would place this then right next to the chip. So just showing them again. So this was placed here. I placed this 1 away from this previous chip right there. And then I let them know that the farther you go along this track is cool because you'll get bigger and better bonuses. And then ultimately at the end, once everybody says that they are done, the round is over. And then whoever got the furthest along that track gets to roll this cool little die that gives them benefits. And that's pretty much all I tell them about that. I then go into the cherry bombs, and I say that if you ever have chips in your pot, the white chips that are called cherry bombs, if it goes above 7, and I have to stress this because a lot of times people then ask me, if it is 7, does that mean that it explodes? No, if it's over 7. I also stress the fact that even if, let's say you had 6 out on your pot and then you pulled out the white 2 chip, your pot immediately explodes. That's it. Your abilities and whatever, they can't stop that from happening anymore. So that's where the press your luck comes in. At this point, I let them know about their potion and how the potion allows you to, if you flip it, you get to remove the last white chip that you placed. And letting them know that the potion does not work if the exploding chip is the one that you just drew from your bag. It's over. It's too late. You can't use your potion. That's another big question that is asked for this game. I then go into, okay, at the end of the round, when we all finish, we've all passed, we're saying that we're done, we're not going anymore, you're going to check the bubble to the right after the last place chip on your board, and that's going to give you some stuff. So the stuff in the squares is your victory points, letting them know, because this lets them know now some of the symbology here, right? So anything in those little square boxes are victory points. If it has a little red gem there, again, another symbology, you're going to get one of these little red gems. And then I'll explain later. I usually let them know, I'll explain later what those gems do for you. And then ultimately what you get is that translucent number in the middle of that bubble as well, and that is your buying power. And this is where the bulk of the game comes in. And I let them know that is what you'll get to buy more ingredients to put into your bag. And I say that these numbers at the bottom of each of these chips lets you know how much it costs. And then I go into how that is your buying power for that round. Nothing carries over. So if you had 6, but you only spent 5, that one doesn't carry over. It's gone. I also stress the fact that you could buy only up to 2 chips and they have to be different colors. People forget that rule a lot too. They have to be different colors. So I explained that to them. And you don't really have to go into what each one of these do, especially the first round, because they could read it. By the way, just to mention, I also always use the chapter 1 books for first-time players. I think it just makes it a little bit easier for everyone. The abilities are pretty straightforward in there. They might have a couple of questions like this one where it says, draw 1, 2, or 4 chips, blah, blah, blah. And they might be like, how do I know which one? And then you could just explain whichever ones they have a question about. Which is why I don't really go into what everyone does, because most of them are self-explanatory. I also don't tell them about the yellow and purple ingredients. I have those set off to the side. They don't need to know that. I start to introduce those right when the rounds go in. So when it gets to round 2, the yellow ingredient comes out, and that's when I'll explain, okay, we now have this new ingredient. That's the same for everything. So even with the purple one, and then when the white chip, the next white chip that has to get put into your bag in round 6 comes out, I don't tell them about that until later, like maybe right before the round is about to happen. I say, okay, now we get this new white chip into our bag. Not a big deal. I also, for the last round, how everybody has to take it out of their bag at the same time, and then what like rubies do and all that stuff, I wait until a little bit later to explain those things because they just don't need to know it right now. Lastly, at this point, I let them know what the gems do for them, because now they have some sort of concept as to what happens with the potion. I say, when you spend 2 rubies, you get to flip that potion back over, because once you've used it, it's gone, and it'll be gone until you spend 2 rubies on it to flip it back up. I also let them know about the 2 rubies, how you can move the teardrop up on your board permanently. My mic wire is getting in the way. Anyway, so yeah, you can move this up permanently 1 space around, which allows you then to have your chips be placed out farther and farther along this track, which is cool. And that is a permanent ability for the rest of the game when you spend the gems. So now people are pretty much ready to get started, and you can get into, you know, pulling things out of your bag and everything. But right before that, you want to say, okay, whoever the first player is, they're going to draw one of these event cards, and these event cards are always something good. At least I think they're always something good. I don't think I've ever come across something that's bad in this deck. And so you go ahead, you have them read it out loud, and then you just explain. So this one, at the end of the round, all flags get a free refill, which is cool. So most of these are self-explanatory. If there's any sort of question about them, you could explain it right then and there as they come out. And then you could go ahead. You start pulling out your chips and whatnot and seeing where they go. And once everybody's done, you could just ask, like, okay, is everybody done? Did anybody explode? All right. And then you go into the phases and saying, all right, so we're going to go through each phase together listed on this track. And then you have it, okay, so who got the farthest without exploding? You get to roll this die. And the die is pretty self-explanatory what happens, especially now that they know some of the symbology, like the points, right? Like this one, you know, you clearly get 1 point, or you get the 2 points. The gem is pretty self-explanatory. It looks like a gem, you get a gem. But either way, whatever comes out when they roll the die, or if you roll the die, you just explain, okay, this is what I get from that die. Cool. Then you go into this phase where it's like, okay, any end of the round abilities that could go off right now. And at this point, they really only have the green spider possibly out. So that's really all that's going to trigger. After that, I say, okay, so check to the bubble right next to your last place chip. Do you get a gem? Is there a gem symbol? No, yes, whatever, people start gaining gems. Same thing then for the points. You gain that many points that are in that square. And then I say, okay, and now it's off to the buying phase. And I reiterate, you could buy up to 2 different ingredients. They have to be different colors. And then everybody starts buying, also letting them know and reiterating that buying power does not carry over to the next round. And then I say, okay, at this point, you can spend 2 gems if you'd like to move up your teardrop or refill your flask. And then we just move over to the next round, and that's when I then introduce the yellow ingredient, saying, okay, we have another option here. We could now buy this ingredient, and we're off to the second round. The next person picks up the event, so on and so forth. And you keep on going. Also making sure, so by the next round, this is when rat tails become a thing. Letting them know, okay, whoever's in the lead, we're going to count how many rat tails are between you and the person in the lead. And then you're going to get to place that rat tail that many spaces away from your teardrop. That way you can start even later along the track, which is cool. Which I think is an awesome catch-up mechanic in the game. So that's good. And then you just keep going. And then once each round, so when the purple ingredient comes out, you could introduce that. Again, when the white chip comes out, you could introduce that. And then lastly, when the last round happens. So because they could gain points per 5 buying power and then for every 2 gems, I say it around maybe the 5th or 6th round, letting them know, okay, by the way, at the end of the game, for however many gems you have, you're going to gain points. And I'll let them know specifically, like the last round, you're going to gain points for every 5 buying power you have, but you'll also gain points for every 2 gems you have. Now, also in the last round, there's that rule where everybody's going to pick up out of their bag at the same time and then reveal if they're actually going to continue or not. I just explained that in the last round because they don't need to know that right now. They could just go off and play the game as normal. But anyway, I think that's pretty much it. I think that's everything they need to know about the Quacks of Quedlinburg. If you'd like, you could ask me questions in the comments section below, or you could let me know, how do you teach this game? I'd like to start off a little discussion on how everybody teaches the Quacks of Quedlinburg. You can follow me on social media if you like. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch y'all next time.